This is Richard back at you. We got Mr. Jones 99 Dodge in the house, and we've got it scattered everywhere. We've got his 241D HD transfer case here that we're going to be disassembling and going through it, putting new seals, shift work inserts, and see if we find anything else crazy. Now you got to remember, in our earlier video, the transfer case was coming loose from the back of the transmission. I showed you where the aluminum was kind of shining. Now we did get it apart, separated, and we noticed a lot of the studs weren't, they were just barely started like that. This one was the same way. But we'll take these out and reseal them, put them all back in where they're in the right depth, Loctite them in where they can't come out, and then reseal it. Now these do have a seal here in the front of the transfer case, and they have a seal in the transmission adapter right here. So physically there's no fluid getting in between these two. If one of the seals start leaking, it'll run out this little drip hole right here and run out on the ground if one of them goes bad. You can see that right there. Now, the probable cause, besides the bolts being wrong, this unit's been out before, not getting put back in properly, but we did have some issues with the drive shaft, I noticed. If you come over here, you can listen to this joint. I mean, it's just the knuckle inside down in here. There's like a ball down there. It's just wore plumb out. And this right here would cause such enough vibration to physically break the overdrive housing, break the transfer case off the back of the transmission. Just cause a lot of hectic really bad and a lot of money really quick if it happens. So we are going to be looking at the dealer for a new drive shaft, see what the cost there, availability. If not, we will possibly try to have this one rebuilt. But we'd rather just get a new one and put it in there and be done.
What are these parts you got back here, Richard?
Oh, a little bit of everything, Teresa. This gentleman here wanted it done right. And of course, that's the only way we like to do them. We got a triple disc torque converter here from B&I. We're going to be installing this unit. We got a Midwest Transmission Supply Company. Nice billet flywheel. We got an ATS deep pan. That's really put them on everything that we do. Also over here, we got a lot of parts. We're still missing our Sonex billet input shaft. That should be here in a couple of days. It's a few days out being here, so we're still waiting on it. The rear main seal was leaking in the truck, so we always like to go back with a Cummins rear main seal. We don't like to use any type of aftermarket. We want to stick with OEM on that part of it too. Anytime we do seals, we try to stay with OEM. They just seem to be a lot better. We do have an intermediate band here. We like to use the early style 727 3-speed band. A lot more material on the band. Just makes it grip a lot better. We got a full kit with steels from Transtar. Really nice. Gives you all the steel plates, clutches, ready to go. We like to pick and choose on our Transgo shift kits depending on what we're going to be doing, how bad the valve bodies wore out, how many miles is on the truck. A lot of these trucks come in nowadays with 300,000 on them. Been rebuilt 2 or 3 times. The valve bodies just wore plumb out. So this shift kit here would come with a lot more repair kit pieces in it, where this kit here does not. So you got to kind of toss it up. This kit here is a little bit more expensive than this one too. So when you check it out, you'll see. But we do have Sonex high impact washers that we're going to be putting in this unit. You can see the standard style, just a light coating on it, nothing great. Sonex puts a high impact coating on these that makes them really slippery. Sorry about my gloves being dirty. Same way here, this washer here is another Sonex washer, and these are 2 examples of aftermarket. Always want to use the hardened Sonex. New high flow filter, the rear case support, new bushing kit, also our new governor pressure solenoid and our governor pressure sensor. Being this is an early model, it does get a different sensor here. Bearing backing plate kit. Also, we have our overdrive housing repair spacer shim here that we put in all of them. If we put a new housing on there, it even gets one of them too. I'm going to grab this beautiful Sonex valve here. This is their full-time lube valve. You can see the hole here, a hole exits here. It's got a check valve and a spring in it. That way the tranny lubricates in park, and a lot better lubrication all the way around. So also we have our isolator. This here is what controls the dash lights inside, lights them up. they're bad about getting grooves in them and messing up a lot of things there. So it won't start and park. Multiple things there. The little bullet pieces here, this is what keeps, they're bad about wearing out in the valve body. You can't get out of park. This shift kit has one in it. This shift kit doesn't. There's usually, if you buy a box of them, there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them in a box. So that way you have extras for the next time around. So well, anyway, we're going to get this thing apart. See what this looks like inside, truthfully.
That scared me.
Now, this is an aftermarket converter. Like I said, this was built back in 2018. It just says heavy duty. It's a single clutch, probably S for single. If you notice, B&I says MC on them. They say HDMC stands for multi-clutch. This one here has a billet backing on it, but it just says SHD, so it's probably a single clutch, is what I'm assuming. Very heavy. Now, I also want to show you this really quick here. This tranny had a really bad leak when it come in. And I'm trying to find, there it is right there. You can see here where this cooler line was rubbing on the frame. So we pulled this cooler line off. We're going to pull them all off and check them really close. But this was where our main leak was. If you see in our previous video, I will show you where the fluid is coming out too. So, but we're going to repair that line instead of trying to buy a new one. They're just obsolete. You can't get them. We're not going to cut it. We're not going to put a piece of hose in there. We're physically going to weld that spot up right there, so it'll be a lot stronger.
And that's pretty common.
Very common, huh? It's just plastic pieces that keep the lines from separate from each other. They break. The lines start rubbing. They just get out of hand. So we have our TV linkage here. This is what delays your shifts, gives you higher pressure, controls your passing gear. When you push the gas pedal to the floor, this lever goes all the way to the back. The later versions that were throttled by wire, that had no gas pedal cable, they had a motor setting up here. When you give it gas, the motor would turn. The motor would turn. Give it gas, motor would turn, like that. See? Well, here, the cable pulls it. So you cannot leave this disconnected. It has to have it. It also has to have a return spring on it. Right here, this little hole right here will have a spring going to a little bracket that comes down right here that always pulls this lever back when you come to a stop. When you let off the gas, it always has to pull it back. If it holds it back this way, any it off, the spring breaks. When you come to a stop, you'll have really harsh shifts, funny shifts. It just won't work right. Your park, reverse, neutral switch, and everything's right here, or lever. Trying not to make this video really long. There's a lot to these things, guys. Now the isolator that I was talking about over there on the table, the black piece, is also the plugs into the wires plug into here, and this switch here is what rubs on it inside. So, kind of neat. We're going to take this little cover off here. Down in here, there's a snap ring that keeps all your overdrive section installed in here. We have a 1" wrench that's going to loosen our speed sensor. Got quite a bit of metal on there. See all that metal?
Oh yeah.
You always want to look and make sure these ain't cracked. Make sure they don't look pink on the inside, because they're bad about getting fluid on the inside. You always want to check for that. Make sure it hasn't been touching here, anything like that. Pretty simple. Stuff in here. If y'all need any wind, we've had our share for the last few days. That's for sure, huh, Teresa?
Oh, yeah.
We have had a lot of wind here. These two pieces up here is what holds your wiring harnesses. They always, the clips usually break, they always fall off, but always keep them, put them up there, that way you can tie strap your harnesses back. Your vent tube for your transfer case. Make sure I got them all, I think. Really curious to see how this unit looks, really. Because like I said, this thing was taken off in second gear with no codes. We don't have any fluid in the connector. The wires weren't messed up on the plug on the transmission. That all looks good. So, kind of hard to say. You know, our overdrive clutches are really dark. But these are a dark clutch to start with, so it's really hard to tell, you know, how much wear until you start micing them and cleaning them up and looking at them and seeing what they physically look like. Of course, we're going to have a wavy snap ring come out first. You always want to keep the opening out of the gap. You don't want your opening stuck in there. Same way with this one here. You want to keep it out of the gap, but you don't want them together. You want to still try to get them turned away from each other, kind of like that. Makes a big difference. Keeps from breaking the tips off your snap ring. There we go. Let's see, I got a flashlight here. We might be able to see some of this if there's any wear. You can kind of see that wear down in the housing right here, how that snap ring's notched that out right there. Mm-hmm. See that? So that's what this piece here was set down in there like this, and then you put your snap ring in and it keeps the snap ring from ever going back into that slot right there that it's made in there. Actually moves everything far forward in the transmission when you put that in there. So you'll definitely have to check your clearances and stuff really good, because it's physically going to move it probably 20, 30 thousandths forward. So when you use those, you have to check that stuff. You have to check it period when you build one of these trannies, but I'm just saying. I'm not going to press this apart right now. My pressing stuff's setting across the shop a little bit farther to do this. But if you look here, this wavy snap ring right here that holds your direct clutch in, it looks like they put a used one in there and they just flipped it over. You can see how much wear this snap ring has on it in places. I'm shocked this snap ring ain't broke in a million pieces, because a lot of them, when I take this apart, these snap rings just fall out in 6 or 7 pieces, or you'll even see them busted down in here when you're looking at them. So, but anyway, you always want to put a new snap ring there, and you want to check the snap ring groove on this drum right here too. So I say we got more pieces coming. Our sun gear, our forward sun gear, our overdrive sun gear is coming. So we got a lot more pieces coming that ain't here yet.
Will you move that air hose so I don't trip over it? I see it happening.
Okay.
Thanks and thank you.
There you go. Of course, we have our overdrive piston here. We have a spacer here. Now this is selective. We also have a selective spacer here. Snap ring, you want to call it. And so there's multiple places to set up the clearance in this tranny. So this is one of the worst trannies to probably start out with if you're going to be building one. We have our 3/8 bolts right here in the back to hold the support in. I always talk about them being a gold color. Probably made out of some type of high strength metal. I'll move my socket for my band adjustment nut here for our intermediate. This all goes all the way through the case and goes into the band strut. It's going to be a really nice tranny when we get this put back together. I'm really excited to do these.
Magnet's a little hairy.
Magnet's a little hairy, but not too much metal. I'm really shocked.
Yeah.
I figured there'd be a lot more metal in here. I don't know when the last time it's been serviced. And we have our factory filter here. And we're going to be using a high flow filter and a nice ATS deep pan. We do have an aftermarket governor pressure sensor. I always like to use the OEM instead of aftermarket. We have our governor pressure sensor there. Now, we do have an aftermarket band strut here. Normally the standard ones is just a flat piece of metal. You can tell this one here is a little bit different. Got some flaps on it that makes it a lot stronger, keeps it from bending. And we have our other band strut here that went into here, like that. We have our 1-2 accumulator right here. Now your shift kit will come with a different spring here usually for that. We'll move I'm not sure if I got the right torque socket to tear that valve body down, but we'll get in here and give it a whirl. See if we got any busted springs or parts. Oops. Yep, I knew that was wrong. Let me wipe my gloves off and go get my torque socket set. If I got it in the right spot too. I think it's that one right there. Yep, it's in there nicely. Don't got the perfect vision for... What'd I do to that other one, Teresa? Am I losing my mind?
It's right there.
Huh?
Right
there it is. See, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
That table's bright. Sometimes the reflection off that table.
Well, it was like on the other side of this lip.
Hey.
Slow down a little bit and...
Yeah. Well, I don't want this to be a really, really long video. This bolt here seems a little jiggly. There we go. Now your shift kit will also come with Overdrive accumulator springs. They'll come with like 3 or 4 of them that goes stacked together. You always want to look at your cover here, make sure it ain't just destroyed in here. A lot of times you can get some excessive wear in here even where that spring runs. So you want to look at that really close. All your accumulator bolts covers too. Your bolts for your cover are all long. Do not use short ones on here. Okay, if you do, this cover could blow out, so you don't want to do that. Of course, this little bolt here is special. It's got a little shank on it. When it tightens down, it still lets this float, still lets it move around, okay? You don't want to tighten this down where it don't move. When you tighten the valve body down, it'll break it off right here. So you gotta be careful there. Go. Like I say, this is a aftermarket. We like to use OEM here and OEM there. Now the shift kit we'll be using will come with a metal plate that goes under this gasket, so you always want to read your instructions and install that metal plate. This bolt and this bolt here is your lining bolt that lines everything up. So when you get them all in, just snug these two down and then start from your middle and work your way out. Electric still takes a little longer, it seems like. Now you notice that we had a long bolt here. In some of my videos I talk about you can have a short one or a long. So not all of them will take the long though, so you got to watch it. And then of course this bolt right here has a funny little washer on it, always goes on the top here. And it's going to be your longest bolt besides your two shifter bolts. Okay. Of course you have your lockup and your overdrive solenoid here. Here's where we start seeing the metal. See all the metal down in here? Mm-hmm. Where we start having problems. You always want to look for this little tiny check ball right here. That little check ball. And how you can identify, if it takes a check ball, you'll have multiple holes right here. Because the check ball's in a trough. You don't want to leave it out. And it is special. It's a little tiny dude. So you don't want to lose it. Take and put it somewhere where you won't lose it. That's normally when I lose it. So, of course, your shift kit's going to come with a new plate. Just make sure if you're looking for your identification hole, you can look right here. Right in this area right here, there'll be a tiny hole. If it's a 48, if there's no hole, it's a 47 and down. So you always want to look for that. Your shift kit instructions. Also, you can second gear feed right here. You can drill this hole out just a little bit for a firmer second. You notice you have a big hole here and a little hole here. You can leave this one the same and enlarge this one here, and you're going to help third gear out. If you drill this one bigger and not this one, you didn't help third gear out at all. So you got to drill that one just a little bit bigger. We have all of our check balls. This check ball right here is bigger. You got to remember that. The rest of them are the same size. Remember that. Down in here a little deeper and see if they put any goodies in here. Now we do have a stock manual valve. This is just the factory one. I always like to update it with a Sonex. And you can see here, this is just your factory pressure regulator valve, where you have your Sonex with the check ball in it. Sets in it just like that. And what it does, it allows fluid to get from here to here in park. Just like that, that's how it sets. So, a big improvement to your lube circuit when you do that. So, that's a must. And then we have our switching valve here, 4-land. Of course, we also like to run a Sonex one here. You can see that there, the Sonex factory. So all the parts I touch will be thoroughly cleaned. The little isolator I was talking about, the black thing, the little plastic thing I was showing goes here. Now these things are really bad about locking in park, and what they do is this piece wears right here. I'll show you. I'll lose that clip. This spot right here ends up wearing, and then the ball will not jump over the hill. So you have to take and round this hill off just a little bit right here so the ball will jump back over the hill. This is park right here, reverse, neutral, drive, second, low. So when you're in park, the ball will not jump over. And when it starts getting wore right there and won't let it jump over, this is where these pieces come in right here. This ball will start wobbling this hole out right here, and it'll start moving back and forth. Next thing you know, you got a lot of play in your shifter. And it's just because this cone right here is sitting here moving like this because the ball's moving. They put this long shank bullet in here with a spring on it that uses the whole bore that stabilizes the end of it. That way it doesn't let it move anymore. I mean, it's really simple to install. Trying not to make this video too long, but it's probably going to get there. We love our little chain idea that goes in our drip bucket. Keeps it nice and quiet. Works beautiful. That was a really good idea.
Yeah.
From whoever sent us that. That was a really good idea.
Oh yeah, that works so good.
Works really good, huh?
Yes.
We have our shifter seal here. We always glue these in the case no matter what. Never put them in dry. Also, you have another seal right here. It goes a certain way. If you put this in upside down, it'll leak out the top of it. It has to go in just like that. Okay? So just remember that. I always glue that one in. Now, since this is a crosser, all crosser pump vents are in the pump right here. See that right there? Not all of them, but the rear wheel drives are, okay? If we're building a mud buggy tranny, he's going to be putting it underwater. We'll plug this hole right here and we'll tap the top of the case, and then we'll run a hose all the way up to the brake booster. That way it can't ever get no water in the tranny. But water will seep right in that vent hole if you put this thing underwater. Okay, we have our pump stator right here. We have a selective washer right here. We have our standard stainless sealing rings. If this was a gas rig, it would have steel rings in the overhaul kit. Since it's a diesel, it has stainless. But since we're going with a shift kit, we're going to be putting blue, like a Teflon ring in there that's just really high pressure that will not blow out. So the stainless are better than the steel. If I have these left over from kits, which I got hundreds of them, we will retro these rings back into gas. So that's a big upgrade to a gas even. The stainless is. So you want to always replace this bushing right here. You can go in here and Scotch-Brite this area right here where these two sealing rings run. Scotch-Brite this up here. Check it from right in here for wear. You see some of the bluing gone? but it doesn't look bad. Just a little bit of the bluing's gone there, no rutting or anything. Still clean it up and inspect it when it's clean. We got new pump gears coming that are not here yet, so waiting on those to show up. They make multiple sizes of these pump gears, diameters, thicknesses, and everything, so you always want to match that up to the year. You might get it apart and be in trouble anyway, because somebody could have put a different pump in it. They could put a gas pump in a diesel, and then you're going to be trying to find a diesel pump to put back in there, because a gas pump will not physically operate a diesel tranny. There's not enough volume to it. We have a Babbitt, or not Babbitt, but a dimpled bushing, excuse me. Now you notice this bushing here, they just stuck it in the hole. They did not even stake it. See that? What we do is we put the bushing in flush, we stake the bushing, and then we take our driver and press it down just a little bit below this ledge right here. That way the staking that we put in there is even in there better. So put your bushing flush, stake it, and then put it down just a little bit farther, and that way that bushing's in tight. Always check it on your converter hub to make sure it fits nice though, okay? Always glue our front seal in too. We never put it in dry. Pretty simple there. Okay, see what they've done here since this unit's been into. Now they did put a different snap ring in here. Normally there would be a wavy snap ring. This is just flat. The clearance don't look too bad, but we usually use a 350K snap ring, which is yellow, and it is a little bit thicker than this. So you just gotta kind of play with it, see what you can do. Now we've only got 4 clutches in your high gear. You can see a little bit of chatter here. It could have been from the existing rebuild, because it looks like here they probably just put this side against another clutch. And it's really hard to tell if these are new clutches, if not or factory clutches. So it's really hard to say. Your bushing, you always want to replace this here. While you got your bushing out, you can Scotch-Brite this area up. We like to 80 grit the drum with some paper there. This bushing right here too, what I like to do, when I set my bushings in, this washer is going to hold this drum up off that stator. Okay, if you notice, this bushing is sticking up high. It's not much, but it's up high. So I would put that bushing in the drum deeper and get that bushing either flush or even down just a little bit. You don't want to go too far down, because then it could rub down. It could rub right here, right here. See, but I don't want it sticking out like that neither. I like to get it at least flush, but that's the only way you can check it, like that. You want to at least have some oil passage through here, basically. So, and the way they got it, they don't. Very little, if any. Now, this is just your factory input shaft. We do have a Sonex input shaft coming. We have a stock sealing ring here. The shift kit will come with a Teflon ring here that goes there. We have another selective washer here. The factory rings that go right here work really well, so there's no problem with these. Just replace them in your kit. If you notice, these are kind of locking together a little bit. Some of them are just straight cut, where they're just straight, butt up against each other. With these, lock a little bit, which gives it better sealing when it expands. See? So I do like those rings there better than the other ones. Okay. Now we do have another selective washer here. We have this washer here that goes down on the intermediate shaft, and we have this 3-tab washer that goes down in here in the forward drum. Okay. Now this washer is selective too. They make a couple different ones of these bevel plates. Just always check, and when you put this together, make sure this isn't doing a lot of moving in and out of this drum. Make sure this is setting on this piston. Like that. Sometimes this gets bowed and there's a lot of slack in between here. So you always want to find a good one of these. Make sure it's not bowed. Okay. Got a plastic little washer here, or spacer. They do make metal ones if you can find them in the early 727s. They did have metal ones. Get that in there. Pretty simple. And we do have our forward clutches here. Now, being that this is an early design, it's got a bigger tooth count, bigger style teeth. I don't have a later design. The later design, they went to a lot sharper teeth and a more tooth count, and they changed this outer ring gear right here to accommodate for the teeth count. So, like I say, when you get into these, you don't know who's been in here playing around, so you never know what you're going to get when you take it apart. We try to, when the vehicle in, I try to order everything before it gets here, and hope and pray that nobody's been in here to mess with it. So. Which, boy, do we get into some stuff, huh, Teresa? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, some people get into these and mess them all up. Now, this is, you got to remember, this is a 99 model. Real early design. Really? This isn't the one I normally use for this. But that I don't know where it went. Let me try this one. Yep, almost. There we go. Now this snap ring right here is selective too. So you got to, once you get this all together with your new Snow-Nex washers and stuff, you want to just check this clearance here. When you put this snap ring on there, you don't want it to lock this gear train down. It's still got to physically spin when you put this snap ring on there, okay? And this snap ring is round on one side and square on the other side. I like to put this square out. That way it gets deep into the groove. Our intermediate shaft here looks pretty good. Got some dark spots on it, but don't look bad. Now this is where they changed a bunch of things on from an early design to a late design. We still have the aluminum planet here, where the later design they put a steel planet and added a thrust washer. So basically what they did is they added one of these big thick thrust washers on the back of the steel planet, okay? Where this style here, the planet is the washer. This sets in here, which this is splined to this so it turns with it, and then the planet runs on this. So when you get wear in here, it'll come down and touch this metal spot right here. So we've already started to see a little bit of wear, but we are still going to be upgrading this, I believe, to a 5-pinion, if not a 6-pinion. I had Raymond at Transtar find me the best he could for me. So even going up one gear is a big difference on these. So a washer here, 4-tab. Now we do have our sun gear here I was talking about. I have still waiting to get in. You always want to check the teeth on both sides because you have a coast and you have a drive. And the drive on this side looks pretty. Starting to see some wear. So we always replace our sun gear. You got this little plastic, looks like a little washer or bushing or whatever you want to call it. Can't be a washer, it's got to be a bushing, excuse me. And then you have the thrust washer that goes in there. And then this sets on there like that. If you leave this out, this could touch metal to metal. So you do not want to leave that out. This can rock enough to where it can touch here. Okay. Okay, very nice. You want to look here for any wear down in here. These are the splines I talked about that they changed on the forward clutch. So you'd have to change the ring gear and to fit a later version clutch. So of course our band is smoked, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That band is just totally cooked. And this is, let's see if it says 727 on it. It does. Look here. So this is a 727 band like we're going to be putting back in here. But you can see even a good band can be destroyed if this band was new. So hard to say nowadays what people put in them. So. We have our big old reverse band. Man, it's even wore out. You don't see these wear very much. But you can see here how thin it is out here on that. This is it was sitting in their inner, so on the inner side of the band in here, it is really wore, almost down to the touch of metal, even burnt. And then of course, you want to look here, because this here I was telling you about where the cooler line oil comes in out of that support back there and lubricates this right here, and you can see how that's ate up, where metal's been getting in there and just eating that up. And what it does, I'll show you back here. But it just starts eating this up right here. See that? Just eats it all up. So that's why these Dodges, you need to service these things a lot. They keep the metal from cycling through the filter all the time. We have our lower roller clutch there. I'm going to shorten the video. We have our reverse servo here. We have our intermediate servo here that applies to both of your bands. So just place your seals and stuff like that in there. Clean it up really nice. So we have the transfer case video coming next, guys. Sorry to make this video so long, but we really enjoy what we do and we really want to get it out there and show you guys what we put in these units and stuff. Teresa, you know you're number one recording. Annie? Who knows? But anyway, guys, thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to push that notification bell. And I'm wore out. Have a good day.